All right, all right. Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. We are here with Stephanie Simon. I got the chance to meet her a couple of weeks ago, more or less, because of the Nomad Summit 2019, which was an amazing event. She was part of the organization, basically. I'm gonna give you a few seconds, a few minutes, actually, to introduce yourself. So please go ahead, tell us your story, where you're from, what is your background, the usual background thing, please.
Okay. Sounds good. Yep. So my name is Stephanie Simon. Let's see. I first came to Chiang Mai when I was, I guess, like about 2 years ago. I started this journey as a digital nomad, as a freelance copywriter. And that was pretty cool because I got to learn a lot about copywriting, and also it was my first opportunity in kind of exploring the entrepreneurial lifestyle. I didn't have like a company per se, but I did have to learn how to kind of market myself and sell my own products, sell myself as a product essentially. And that was really fun. I had a great time doing that. But I realized very quickly that I also had a passion for events. And so about 2 years ago, I started hosting some Nomad Coffee Club events. I don't know if anyone's familiar with Johnny FD, but he had a Nomad Coffee Club here. And I basically took it over for him for about 7 months while he was out traveling. So that was a great opportunity too, because I got to basically invite speakers to come in and talk about entrepreneurship, location independence, and things like that, and hear their stories. And then after that, I left Chiang Mai for a little bit, went back to Austin, Texas, which is where I'm currently based, and basically just kind of, it took some time to sort of reevaluate whether or not I wanted to spend the next couple years doing copywriting still. And while copywriting is an amazing skill set that I recommend everybody take some time to kind of learn and study, I think I was ready to move to the next level and sort of start a company of my own. And since I had so much success as an event planner, I decided to launch an event company. And so that's kind of how I got involved in organizing Nomad Summit this year. That's how we met.
Yeah.
So,
and basically, probably the main reason why I decided to invite Stephanie to be part of this video podcast, YouTube channel, whatever you call it, is the fact that you're basically mixing both online and offline business, all right? So if you're okay with that, I would, let's say, split this interview in two parts. So the first part would be about copywriting, and the second one, which is probably the coolest one, would be about the event stuff. So what is your best piece of advice when it comes to copywriting? I mean, how did you start learning it? How did you learn it? You know what I mean? Do you have any book recommendations, any courses or stuff like that? Anything that can help fellow copywriters over there?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm gonna keep it, no worries.
Oh, okay. So when I first started copywriting, the first book that I read was Gary Halbert's The Boron Letters. Yeah,
awesome.
Yeah, it's a fantastic book, really amazing. I actually read it a few times because I wanted to take notes, so I read it the first time through, and then I came back and I read it a lot slower and paid attention to how he even wrote the book itself.
All right.
Because it's very intentional how he writes it. And then after that, I started reading like Triggers, which is another fantastic book. I read, On Advertising. I read once you start to read Gary Halbert, you kind of just work backwards and you start to read the books that he recommends.
Right.
And it leads you down this amazing rabbit trail. And the truth is with copywriting, you can read a ton of books and stuff, but you really start to learn it when you put it into practice. And, I found that the best thing that I could do for my studies was to start going out there and to start applying for jobs, because if you have to use copywriting when you're applying for things online. You have to convince people through your writing that they should hire you. Right. So if you can't convince people to hire you as a copywriter through your writing, then your copywriting probably needs a little bit more work. So you have to go back to the drawing board. So I found that after a month of studying and reading all these books, I decided to go and finally start applying on Upwork for some copywriting positions, and within 48 hours I had a couple offers.
Nice.
And so I was pretty lucky. I feel like within a month of studying copywriting I had my first client. So I definitely had a knack for it. I don't know that those results are typical necessarily, but I was working super hard, taking tons of notes, like reading all the time and practicing and writing a lot. So I got a client pretty quickly. And it was awesome. You know, I used that money to kind of go and move to Chiang Mai and start my digital nomad journey. So.
All right. So let me see if I understood properly. So you decided that copywriting was your thing. So you started studying Gary Halbert. By the way, I'm super happy she mentioned Gary Halbert because his text is probably one of the best, probably the best, I would say. I would say, and it's not really famous over there in Italy. So guys, check it out. And by the way, so you started studying, and finally you decided to apply for your first job on Upwork.
Yes.
And you got the job right away.
Yes, I did. And I used the techniques that I had been studying in order to get that job. Basically, when you start studying copywriting, it changes how you write everything.
Yep.
I started to think about writing in the terms of, what does my audience want instead of what do I want? So in this case, my audience was people that were hiring people on Upwork. Business owners that wanted to find copywriters. So what do they want? They want someone that they can rely on because it's a digital job. So usually when they hire people, they're sitting in front of them and they get to do an interview, but in this case, they wouldn't be able to do that. So they want credibility. They're a little scared to take the risk and pay someone that they haven't met face to face. So in your copywriting, any way that you can mitigate that risk by ensuring them that, in this case, I'm a native English speaker was definitely a benefit for me as a copywriter because that was very high in demand. I took away the pushback of like, okay, so I know you haven't met me in person, so you might be a little worried about working with me. I did 100% money back guarantee on my work, which was if they weren't happy, I would refund the money.
Nice.
And that takes down that pushback that they might have in hiring me. I was very confident in my ability that I would never have to give the money back because nobody would ever be unhappy. Sure. So I felt like, it was low risk for me to be able to do that. I thought about it in terms of what does my audience want, and copywriting, that's all copywriting is it's putting yourself in the mind of your audience and thinking and speaking their language and using their words to basically describe their pain points and the solutions that you have to it.
Absolutely. The thing about the policy refund, do you say policy refund in English?
I said, money back guarantee.
All right, money back. This is a huge piece of advice, in my opinion, because when you start in Upwork, you're definitely brand new, so you don't have reviews and stuff like that. Right. You didn't have reviews, right?
I didn't. Yeah, I was brand new. And I also, to create that sense of urgency, I told them that I was brand new, and I said, I'm brand new to Upwork, but I'm not brand new to copywriting. So this rate that I'm giving right now is the lowest it will ever be. Mm-hmm. So if you want to capitalize on the fact that because I'm new and I'm trying to build up reviews, I have a slightly lower rate than I normally would, you should definitely hire me now versus later because it will get more expensive as I get more reviews. And that created that urgency. And so people recognize that they're like, I really like her style of writing. She's very good. She's new to this platform, so her rates are just going to keep going up. I'm going to hire her now instead of later.
I assume you started for like $5 or something like this?
I did. I started out like at not $5, but it was definitely lower. It was like 15 or something like that. Yeah. And then I did eventually keep increasing my rates. But I did start out at like a crazy low price for the industry standard because I wanted to just get reviews, and that was the goal. And I made that clear in my copy as well. And so people knew that they were getting someone that is worth more than that, but is trying to get reviews. So they're almost getting a bit of a deal, which encouraged them to purchase sooner rather than later.
Absolutely. Just two more questions, at least for now, about this topic. The first one would be, was the part in which you said that got experience in copywriting was just like a sort of fake it until you make it?
Kind of, yeah. I mean, I was confident in my abilities, so I knew that if for some reason I didn't know the answer right away, that I would find the answer. So I knew that if someone hired me and like maybe I didn't have a ton of experience in that industry or that niche, writing for that niche, that's okay. I would find what I needed to find to be able to do the best work for them as possible. And I was very confident in that. So, but yeah, I think when you're first starting out, you kind of just have to own it and be like, you know what, I'm a copywriter now. That's what I am. And you have to be confident about that so that you can start attracting the kinds of clients that will make you a better writer. Mm-hmm. And I think this goes for any kind of freelancing niche. So, yeah.
It makes total sense. Second question would be, I assume, and correct me if I'm mistaken, that at the end of this process, or during this process, you were able to move those clients outside Upwork, right?
Yes, absolutely. And that's one of the first things I did, because Upwork does take a fee from the freelancer and from the person hiring the freelancer. So immediately it was win-win for both of us to get off the platform after we had initially used it, but I only did that after I'd gotten him to write me a review on Upwork, so that if I ever needed to go back to Upwork for other clients, I would have had that review. So we closed out our contract on Upwork. He wrote me an amazing review, and then after that, we continued to work together from that point forward.
All right, that's awesome. And was it like hourly pay or milestone? Because I know there are at least two, maybe three ways of get paid over there in Upwork.
So what I would do is I would have my hourly rate, but I would not actually get paid that way. So I would be like, okay, this is roughly how much I'm going to cost per hour, so that people would get an idea of what the budget might be like. And I would say it's going to take me anywhere from like 5 to 6 hours to do this particular email or whatever it was I was writing. But I said, I don't know how long it's going to take me, so I'm going to charge you by the project.
Okay.
So basically I would say, I'm going to charge this many dollars for this email. And I preferred project-based because as you get better at what you do, you get faster at what you do, and you shouldn't be penalized for that. So that's why I prefer project-based over hourly when I was a freelancer.
Nice. And did you move to Chiang Mai right away? So you started your online copywriting thing and then move right away to Chiang Mai, which makes sense because if you get paid like 10 or 15 bucks in the United States, that would be pretty low amount of money. But in Chiang Mai,
it was pretty good, yeah. And actually, the first contract that I secured was $4,000 US a month.
Okay.
So my hourly rate didn't even matter. Basically, I told the guy on the phone, I was closing him, I said, that hourly rate was just to get me to do, I'm offering that hourly rate for one assignment, that's it.
Okay.
But then after that, you have to pay me my normal rate. And the only reason why I even have that lower rate is because I want to get reviews on the platform. But that's actually not how much I charge for if you want to continue to work with me. So I'll give you that hourly rate for that one assignment, but then after that, it goes back to my normal rates. And so, so that's how I was able to negotiate up and acquire a much higher rate than that. And my first client was paying me $4,000 a month to basically do a lot of work for him, not just like one email, but to do like several things. Yeah.
All right. So you started over there, made a few bucks. You asked the client to get outside of Upwork and got paid project and an hour. Yeah. All right. That's pretty awesome. Awesome. All right, definitely cool. Do you see any downside when it comes to Upwork?
So I'm no longer on Upwork, and I tried to get off the platform as soon as possible. Yeah. The idea was just to get started, and I think Upwork is still a fantastic platform to get started. If you're just getting started and you want to build your business and you want to build a portfolio for whatever you're freelancing with, Upwork is still a great platform for that. But yes, I would say that once you get a little bit of experience under your belt, the idea is to start using word of mouth or public speaking opportunities to get clients because the perceived value of you as a freelancer increases, I think, once you get off Upwork. Yeah. People tend to think of Upwork employees as cheap labor. Yeah. And so when you're trying to negotiate pricing, if you're on Upwork, it can be a little bit more challenging, and that's just because of that perceived value. That's not to say that there aren't people on Upwork that are making a killing. Yeah. They are, but it's just a little bit more challenging than if you were to, let's say, go up on stage, give a talk about copywriting like I did. I used public speaking to get a lot of my leads after that. Nice. And then people go, oh, wow, she's on stage. She's super knowledgeable about what she's doing. They get to see how knowledgeable you are. And then when they approach you to work with you, you are in you're positioned a lot better, and you can ask for more money that way.
It's all about credibility, right? How did you start this public speaking thing?
So when I got involved with Nomad Coffee Club, I basically jumped at the opportunity to start hosting those events. Johnny had been hosting them. I was attending them just as someone who attends the events, and I knew that that was something I could be good at. And when he asked the audience, he said, "Hey, is anybody interested in helping run this for me while I'm gone?" I immediately raised my hand and volunteered. And it wasn't a paid position. It was something I volunteered my time to do. But I saw a lot of value in doing that. It wasn't about the money. It was about meeting other talented people in the space, getting to know them, being at the front and center of that, and being perceived as someone who's very well connected in the community. And that ended up happening. I was no longer perceived that way. I actually was someone that knew a lot of people and was very well connected in the community at the time. So it was a great experience. And once I started doing that, I was like, okay, well, I'm running these events now. I can just make myself a speaker, Yeah. So I hosted one of the talks. I just put myself on stage and I said, I'm going to teach about copywriting because that's what I have experience doing. Yep. And that was my first speaking gig. That went very, very well. It was at the time when I spoke, I had the highest turnout that we'd ever had at a Nomad Coffee Club event, at my event, which was great. And I got a lot of great feedback from that. I got a lot of leads for my business from that talk. And then from there, I was invited to actually speak at Nomad Summit by Johnny. And so I came and I spoke at Nomad Summit, not last year, but 2 years ago.
Oh, 2 years.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's a really inspiring story. Definitely inspiring. All right, that's pretty awesome. And this could lead us to the next part of this whole video channel, video podcast, which is about your new business.
Yes.
That is all about event planning and event organizing. So please go ahead and tell us all about this whole thing, please.
So when I got back to Chiang Mai this most recent trip a couple months ago, I knew that I was ready to transition out of freelance copywriting. And so I had so much fun hosting events for Nomad Coffee Club that I thought I really want to start my own events company. And not necessarily as being hired as event organizers, but rather being the company that actually puts on the events. So I started Project Nico with my business partner, Cara. And basically Project Nico is an events Nico stands for some things. So N is for networking events. So things like mixers, speed networking, parties. I is for inspirational events. So we're talking like TEDx style talks, things like that. Bringing in speakers similar to Nomad Coffee Clubs, stuff like that. C is for creating. So it's like workshops, incubators, hackathons. By the end of the event, you've actually created something.
Nice.
And O is for optimization. So it's, events where you might attend a talk where someone tells you how they took their business from A to Z and the process that they did that. And right now we're focusing specifically on summits because a summit can integrate, it has networking, it has inspiration, it has creating, and it has optimization all in one event. And that's why we got involved with Nomad Summit, to be able to kind of like take Nomad Summit to the next level, which is why Johnny brought us on. And then we had that experience under our belt. We're like, that was great. And now we're ready to do our own events. So we are putting on a summit in April that all we're going to say is it has to do with blockchain and cryptocurrency. But we're really, really excited. It's currently in the works. So
it's so awesome because to me, it sounds like a legit business. I'm not saying that other businesses that I heard about here in Chiang Mai are not legit, but this one is definitely legit, right? And I would say that Nomad Summit was the beta test.
Yeah.
Would you call it that way?
It was so we were not the founders of Nomad Summit.
Yeah.
We were not putting on that event. That was Johnny's event.
Yeah.
But he did hire us as organizers to come in and help him take it to the next level. And we are not planning on being organizers anymore, but we loved doing that because it was a great opportunity to see how someone else has been putting on a summit, and we took what we loved from it, and we'll definitely incorporate elements of that in our own summits. But we also have a few ideas, based on that experience of how we can make our summits even better, just how we can grow it and, create and foster more of that connection. Because really when it comes to summits, it's not so much about who's speaking, but more about who's at the summit, who's attending the summit, and how can you foster networking opportunities. So we have a lot of ideas, and we're really excited to implement it in our first actual summit, which will be happening in April.
Yeah, that's so cool, and most importantly, the parties, the thing you just said about basically the networking. That's so true. That's so true. You meet amazing people in events like this, so it's amazing that you are about to launch something like this, and good luck with that, by the way.
Thank you.
But I'm sure you're gonna do an amazing job. Absolutely. So this project is, I would say probably 70% offline, 30% online. What would you say?
So yeah, I would say it's mostly face-to-face right now. Like, we're building a lot of our relationships by attending other summits and other conferences, doing that face-to-face kind of interaction. And the event is a live event, so that's obviously offline. But there are a lot of aspects that require the same skill sets that you would need in an online business. For example, like, we're going to be using Facebook ads to let people know about the event and target our ideal demographic. So we need to have a good understanding of Facebook ads. We're going to be using social media marketing to push the event out. We're going to be doing, contacting potential sponsors online and using copywriting to basically, help them see the vision and help them understand what we're doing. And so many of the online business skills that you use are relevant even with businesses that are majority live or face-to-face.
Absolutely. It makes sense to learn other skills like copywriting, social media, then launch your own thing, right? Makes sense, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. And now, the focus, as I told you, the focus of this YouTube channel, video podcast, whatever, is to talk a little bit about the hard part.
Yes.
Because out there, guys pretend they know everything, and they're gonna show you the positive stuff, like the pools, the parties, which is fine, but they will not show you the bad part, the struggle. Yeah. So please, I assume, and I'm pretty sure you're familiar with that somehow, some way.
Absolutely. So speaking specifically with our most recent struggle, we were brought on as event organizers 2 weeks before the summit. So we basically had to the only things that had been done prior to hiring us was Le Méridien had been booked, the hotel had been booked.
Okay.
And the speakers had been selected. But other than that, Johnny was looking for event organizers to come in because he was feeling overwhelmed and there was still so much to do. Yeah. Car and I pulled in 10-hour, 12-hour days for 2 weeks straight, just going and trying to do everything we can to put on the best summit possible. And we basically did it for very little pay. It was, the budget was small, so, he wasn't able to pay us nearly like what normally you would be making for work like that.
Sure.
But so that's the struggle. It's like you have to, when you're building a business or you're trying to get a skill set, sometimes you have to see the bigger picture. And easily, because I've made a lot more as a copywriter, I could have been like, no, I refuse to make less as an event organizer. But I'm just beginning. And so, my partner and I were totally willing to take on this little assignment so that we can use that experience, almost like an internship kind of, to then go and build our own summits. And so we learned so much from the experience. We're super grateful to Johnny for, taking us on, and, we're really excited to move forward from that.
Right. So I suppose that maybe the worst part in this case was time, of course, because the 2 weeks. And I would say that, but correct me if I'm mistaken, I would say that live events, the major issue about live events could possibly be the fact that you have to deal with lots of people.
Yeah.
Do you think it's probably the worst downside?
I do know that events are known as one of the they're in the top 10 most stressful careers possible. And that's because there's a lot of moving parts when it comes to putting on an event. Your mind's running like 100 miles a minute. You're thinking about the caterer. You're thinking about that person at pre-registration. You're thinking about the attendees. Are they having a good time? You're worrying about the speakers. There's a lot going on, and there's a lot of stuff that happens before the event to make sure that you have a wonderful time. So there's a lot of moving parts. It's a ton of work. It's not something that you get into because you think, oh, it's so glamorous. I get to go visit hotels and try different catering stuff options. And it's not like that. A lot of events is like more like task management and, operations stuff that are not as sexy as visiting hotels and making sure you're picking out beautiful venues. I mean, that's the easy part, but that's not the bulk of the job.
Yeah.
That being said, if that's something that you really enjoy doing, which in my case, it is something I enjoy doing, then it's incredibly rewarding too and worth it. So.
Yeah, I definitely can tell that. Okay. There is another thing that we really like to ask you, and that's the following one. Is your business about to go in other places or just talent? So are you thinking about organizing events in other places or just talent?
So definitely going to be organizing events all over the world. This next one, since it's our first one, we're basically picking that low-hanging fruit and doing an MVP. So that one will be here in Chiang Mai, but the idea is to throw all sorts of events all over the world based on what's hot, what people want to learn about, what people want to connect on. And, the goal of Project Nico is to create that space for connection for, location-independent entrepreneurs.
Right, so target would be entrepreneurs and guys who work online, right?
Yes,
all right.
Absolutely.
Which makes sense because you can definitely move in other places and organize the events in hot spots when it comes to online income, right?
Yep.
So let's say Southeast Asia, Latin America, whatever.
Europe even, parts of Europe like Lisbon, where all the great hot communities are right now for this kind of stuff, so.
That's pretty awesome. So definitely recommend it, guys. Please follow this lady here, her partner, who, by the way, is sitting down there. and over in the description box, I will definitely write all the details.
Yeah, absolutely, and I'll share those with you so that you can do that.
Yeah, awesome. And well, I would say that we're done here. Thank you so much
Thank you for the opportunity. I really appreciate it. It was awesome.
It was cool because, again, it's not easy, guys. It's not easy. It doesn't matter if you're studying like e-commerce or Amazon FBA or even half online, half offline or events. Everything is going to be hard, right? Especially at the beginning, but even later, right?
But very rewarding. Very rewarding at the end. So.
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm. So thank you again for being part of this podcast, video channel, whatever. As I already told the guys before you, that we just have 24 hours per day, right? So the fact that you gave me basically half an hour of your time is super awesome. Thank you so much again.
Thank you.
Thank you guys. Thank you guys for watching this. Please share it, comment it, do your regular YouTube stuff, and see you next video, I guess. Bye.